The first slap cracked across my face before the string quartet missed a note, and the champagne flute in my hand tipped wine over Preston Reddick's ring. For 1 second, the oak room stayed beautiful, with white flowers, silver, and people pretending elegance could swallow sound. Then Marcy Bell, event coordinator, lifted her hand again like she had been waiting for permission. The second slap caught my jaw, and she leaned close enough to smell citrus before she whispered, "Preston said you were only marrying him for the house and the name." Every face near the champagne table turned, but I looked at Preston, because a sentence that specific does not walk in alone. He stood nearby, hand locked around a glass he had not touched, while Beverly Reddick watched with stillness too practiced to be shock. Marcy's eyes were wet and certain, not like a woman who had lost control, but like someone correcting a thief in public. Preston gave me Marcy. "Stop." So softly it sounded less like defense and more like a man asking his secret not to get louder. That was when my cheek stopped being the worst part. Because pain burns fast, but hesitation tells you who knew the fire was coming. I looked from Marcy to Preston, then to Beverly, and understood I had not walked into a celebration, but into a room where my name had been handled without me. No one pulled me back, because my work had taught me ugly moments become useful only when someone keeps the record clean. I set the flute down, walked past Beverly's flowers, and went to the hallway by coat check where the music thinned enough for breathing to return. My hands did not shake when I took out my phone, and that surprised me more than the sting along my face. Above the employee door, I saw the black dome private clubs keep for moments guests later soften. I called my father, Calvin Parker, and when he answered, I gave him the only sentence that mattered. "Dad, I need you at the Oak Room." She hit me twice, and Preston let her. Preston and I had been together 2 years before that party, long enough for me to know the careful version of him and still miss the cowardice hiding inside it. He worked as a regional claims supervisor, the kind of man who remembered policy language, birthday dinners, and which silence would keep everyone comfortable. When Beverly called my work typing for lawyers, he smiled too quickly and murmured, "Mom means it as a compliment." While I let the insult pass because I wanted peace more than proof, that was how the engagement began to tilt. Not with one loud warning, but with small moments he kept asking me to swallow. Beverly chose the Oak Room, the flowers, the guest list, and the seating like the party belonged to her, and I had only been invited to make the photographs legal. Preston kept telling me, "Let her have this one night," as if a mother arranging our engagement around her friends was harmless tradition. Then Marcy Bell appeared at every edge of the evening, straightening linens, touching Preston's sleeve, calling him Prez before I had heard a single guest earn that privilege. I told myself, good event people remember details. But Marcy knew his bourbon before he ordered and steered shrimp away from his plate, before I mentioned the allergy. Beverly noticed all of it, and still called Marcy a girl who knows how to handle a room. While Preston looked into his drink like the table had become interesting, I was a licensed court reporter, and some depositions I covered came through vendor schedules connected to insurance cases, including the kind his company supervised. Nothing about that was improper when handled cleanly, but a man in claims knew exactly how ugly it could sound if he fed the wrong woman the right words first. So when Marcy later accused me of using Preston for money and access in the middle of my party, I heard more than jealousy. I heard his language wearing her voice before I heard her hand. Marcy followed me into the hallway before the phone screen had gone dark, still breathing hard, still wearing the headset that made her look official. The red in her face had not faded, and that mattered, because she was not embarrassed by what she had done, only furious I had walked away before she could finish. "Preston told me everything," she pressed, like his name could turn her hand into evidence and my silence into guilt. "He told me you use people, that you took vendor work near his company, that you were marrying into this family for a better last name." I looked at her, And the woman in front of me was not some stranger who had snapped at a party. She was someone Preston had fed carefully, one private complaint at a time, until she believed she stood between him and a mistake. "Did he tell you that before or after he booked this party with you?" I asked, and Marcy's mouth opened without sound. That break in her face gave me more than an answer, because people freeze like that when the question lands where the truth lives. Megan Reddick appeared near the hallway corner, pale and still, her phone low in her hand, like she had understood what the room did not. "Don't leave the building yet," she whispered when Marcy turned back toward the party, "because the hallway footage is the club's, not Mom's." I nodded once, and that fact changed the shape of the night. Marcy was not just a woman who had touched me. Preston was not just a man who had stayed quiet. And Beverly was not just an offended mother. Preston came out last, smoothing his jacket like control could be buttoned back into place. Marcy got emotional. "That's all," he breathed, trying to move me away from Megan and the dark dome above the employee door. I kept my voice low and asked, "Did you tell her I was marrying you for your mother's money?" His pause was short, but long enough for Marcy to look at him. And in that second, the trap stopped being hers and started showing his name. Calvin Parker arrived without raising his voice, and somehow that made the hallway feel smaller around everyone trying to make the slap sound personal. He wore his old gray coat over a button-down, not dressed for the Oak Room, but people near the courthouse knew that walk. He did not ask me to retell it in front of Preston, and he did not look at Marcy like she deserved a scene. He went straight to the manager on duty and said, "I need the hallway footage preserved." The incident report started, the staff list attached, and the event contract pulled before anyone calls this a misunderstanding. The manager looked from my cheek to Marcy's headset, and the room changed because paperwork had entered it. My father had spent 30 years around court files, and he knew the difference between an apology and a record before anyone blurred them. Dana Whitford was already on my phone, calm enough to make me steady, telling me to photograph my face, save Megan's message, and keep every word from Preston in text. "Do not go anywhere alone with him," she added, and Preston heard it before he could reach for my elbow. Beverly stepped in fast, with her social smile tight, calling it a family misunderstanding before Calvin turned toward her. If a man employed by this club hit a guest twice during an event, no one here would be searching for a softer word. The manager asked Marcy for her key card, and Marcy's face changed when she realized the floor was being taken from her while the party breathed behind the wall. She was not fired in that second, but she was removed from duty. And for a woman who lived by private rooms remembering her name, that was punishment she could feel. Preston tried to lower his voice again. "Eliza, please, let's step outside." But Dana's answer came before mine. "All communication goes through text now. Preston." I watched his hand fall back to his side, and for the first time that night, silence stopped protecting him. Calvin stood beside me, not blocking me, just making it clear nobody could touch my story again without leaving fingerprints. An hour after Marcy Bell slapped me, she came back without the headset, without the clipboard, and without the room treating her like she belonged to it. The manager had taken her key card, moved another coordinator onto the floor, and asked her to write a statement before she could leave the building. That was when her anger finally thinned into fear. Not the soft kind that asks whether someone is hurt, but the sharp kind that counts what might be lost. She stopped near the coat check and breathed. "Eliza, please, I need you to hear me before your lawyer turns this into something I cannot survive." I looked at her face and saw the woman Preston had built out of half confessions, late-night complaints, and promises that sounded clean if nobody checked the dates. She was still wrong, but she was no longer powerful, and that difference mattered because the manager stood 10 feet away with the incident form in his hand. Marcy swallowed hard and gave me the truth in pieces. Preston said the wedding was mostly Beverly. He said you were using the vendor work to stay close. He said, after tonight, he would end it clean. The words did not shock me as much as the order of them, because end it clean meant he had planned to let me smile through my own engagement party, while another woman waited for him behind the flowers. Please, she breathed. I cannot lose my job over him. And for the first time all night, her voice sounded younger than 32. I did not raise mine, because the red mark on my face, her missing headset, and the manager's report had already said enough for me. You would not lose it over him, Marcy. You would lose it because you hit a guest twice while you were working. Beverly stepped closer then, trying to fold the night back into manners, but Megan moved beside me before her mother could soften it. I saw Marcy follow Eliza out, and I saw Preston come after only when it got loud. She said, quiet enough that it landed harder than a shout. Marcy looked at Preston across the hallway, and whatever story he had sold her finally stopped holding its shape. She had begged me for mercy, but the room had already learned where the lie began. The next morning, Dana Whitford turned the night from a hallway memory into paper Preston could not smooth over with a lowered voice. She sent a written notice to his company's legal department, not accusing him of some wild crime, but asking them to preserve communications involving my name, my vendor scheduling, and anything he shared with a third party about my work. That was the part Preston had not understood when he fed Marcy those little pieces of me. A claims supervisor did not get to turn vendor information into bedroom language and then call the damage personal. By noon, my phone had 12 missed calls from Preston, but Dana's rule held, so he had to put himself in writing. Marcy misunderstood what I said came first. Neat and careful. The kind of sentence built to leave no blood on the floor. Then came I was trying to keep everyone calm, which did not match the footage. Megan's message, or his own silence when Marcy used his words against me. I read both texts at my kitchen counter with my face still sore, and for the first time, I saw how much of our relationship had been him editing the room after he had already damaged it. Preston's company did what companies do when the words vendor conflict and employee relationship land in the same complaint. They did not fire him in some dramatic afternoon collapse, and I never needed them to. They opened an internal review, removed him from vendor-facing claim assignments, and reassigned his team while legal sorted through what he had said and who he had said it to. His promotion, the one Beverly had mentioned at dinner, like it was already framed on a wall, stopped moving forward without anyone needing to announce why. Beverly called once, then twice, then left a message about not ruining her son's life over one emotional night. I deleted nothing and answered nothing, because Calvin had taught me that records matter more when people start begging for forgetfulness. Megan texted later, short and ashamed. Preston admitted he told Marcy too much because she made him feel seen. That was the cleanest thing anyone had given me all week, and it pulled him out of the gray at last. 2 weeks later, I met Preston in a coffee shop across from the Wake County Courthouse because I refused to let our ending happen in any room he could soften afterward. He arrived early, looking tired in the careful way men look when they want exhaustion, mistaken for accountability. I let him talk because after the Oak Room, I no longer needed to win a conversation. He said he loved me, that everything got out of hand, that Marcy was confused, that Beverly had been scared of losing him, and not once did he say a fair lie, or I let her hit you. The words he avoided sat between us louder than the ones he offered. I could have forgiven fear, maybe even weakness, if he had named it without dressing it as timing. But the hallway footage existed. Megan's message existed. Marcy's statement existed. And his own texts existed in the clean order Dana had asked me to preserve. I slid the ring across the table and told him, I can love who I thought you were and still refuse to marry who you became when telling the truth cost you comfort. He looked at the ring like it had betrayed him, and that almost made me laugh, because objects do not betray people. People do. Preston kept his job, but not his team. not his vendor-facing claims, and not the promotion Beverly had already been rehearsing over dinner. Marcy left the Oak Room after the review and took work at a smaller venue where nobody cared that she once knew which Raleigh families wanted white orchids in February. Beverly lost the supper club first. Then the easy little dinners where people let her arrange the room before she entered it. Megan stepped away from the wedding plans, returned her dress, and told her mother she would not stand beside a marriage built on a woman being humiliated in public. No one went up in flames, and no one disappeared. They simply received consequences with their own names attached. While I walked out of that coffee shop with my finger bare and my story finally back in my mouth, 3 months after the Oak Room, my life did not look dramatic from the outside, and that was the first Mercy I trusted. I still took depositions, still corrected transcripts at my kitchen counter, still answered attorneys who needed clean records faster than sympathy. Dana closed the demand with the supper club quietly, with medical costs, legal fees, and a written policy review that made the manager call me Ms. Parker every time he wrote my name. I never cared about making that place fear me. I cared that the paper finally said what everyone in that hallway had seen. Calvin kept showing up in ways that would never fit inside a grand apology. He changed the lock Preston still had a spare key to, tightened the loose shelf above my desk, and left soup in my refrigerator like food could hold a daughter together while she slept. Megan came by one evening with a small box from the bridal planning bag, and inside it were the vows I had started before I knew the party had been built on half a lie. I read the first line, folded it once, and felt no shame for the woman who had written it. Marcy emailed me weeks later, short and stripped of performance, saying she believed a man's version of me because it made her feel chosen. I answered only once. I hope you never let someone make your hands carry their lie again. Preston sent one final message about counseling and understanding the damage. But I did not open the door he was trying to build, with better words. Peace did not arrive like thunder. It came when my phone stayed face up all night, and nothing in me waited for it to hurt. So I kept living. Not louder, not colder, just free in the places I had once made small for love. If this story leaves anything behind, let it be that peace can start in the exact room where someone tried to shrink you. Sometimes the life meant for you begins when you stop defending your place at a table that was never honest enough to hold you.